let me introduce you to Deborah Giusti, who's so enthusiastic and she's so intent on the idea of ascension, and she has a great panel. Deborah Giusti.
Yes. Thank you so much. I want to welcome everyone to what's going to be an extremely fascinating, informative, and incredible panel with this incredible panelists here who have all had a lot of experience and research on the topic of ascension. And I'm assuming you're here too because something inside you is telling you that there's something different going on in this lifetime that you're in right now, that there's possibly an incredible opportunity for a rapid spiritual escalation that's happening now. And he's right. I'm totally passionate about the topic of ascension. For me, I've been on the spiritual path for a long time, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that have been here too. And it keeps escalating and escalating. And my information and my knowledge of why I came to the planet now and participating in this grand ascension that is not only our personal ascension, but the ascension of the planet and all that's going on right now. And I know a lot of us are here at this conference because we feel there's a major shift going on. We can see it in the world as it's escalating. We can feel it internally. And it's possibly why we felt we came to the planet right now, because this is a rockin' and rollin' time on the planet right now. And even in spite of the chaos and dysfunction that we see in the world, all we have to do is turn on the news, and it's pretty incredible where a lot of the dysfunction in the society is being exposed now. And we wonder, how is this positive transformation? But I say this is high signs of the transformation when the corruption and all the stuff that's dysfunctional comes up to the surface. It's kind of like a healing crisis in the body. When you go through a healing crisis and your body brings all the toxins up to the surface so that it can be exposed and dealt with and released. That's really what's going on in our society now, is everything's out in the open and we can deal with it and deal with it. And so this planetary transformation, along with this personal transformation, as above, so below, is one of the very important spiritual teachings that we live with. So not only is the whole planet and solar system going through this rapid spiritual evolution ascension, it's us internally that has this opportunity right now, and that's what really excites me. And we can also see it in the evolution of kind of changes in our society, like the Me Too movement, where the women came into power and said, hey, stop this, we need a balance of what's happening now, and the rise of the divine feminine. And I think there's about 6 women running for president now. Isn't that amazing? Along with Marianne Williamson, who's really speaking the truth. So I think there's a lot of positive transformation that's happening now. And for me, I just look inside internally and see what's going on with me. And I would say after 2012, there was a major shift in my world and understanding of this process of ascension. But what does this topic of ascension really mean? And how does it differ from the Christian description of when Christ ascended? And is it really about Christ consciousness that he came here to teach us? Is it about the concept of enlightenment, and how does that all fall into place? Are we becoming ascended masters? Is that where our evolutionary process is taking us to? So there's a lot of questions in this process. What I know for myself is, like I said, after 2012, there was a marked shift in my consciousness, in my appetite for spiritual evolution, and what was going on with me. And here are some of the things that have happened to me that might be true for you. For me, I meditate every day now. It was like 2012 happened, and it's like, okay, you can't start, stop, start, stop. This is like a daily practice to tune into Source and have your connection with Source ongoing, that hotline to the Source frequency and to the information. And I'm using my intuition, not like it's something unusual, but like it's a part of my being, really using the faculty of intuition. So that feels like another evolution of my being, which may be part of this ascension process. And I get downloads of energy frequencies, downloads of information, downloads of insights. That's another part of the expanding evolutionary process, which could be part of the ascension process. Also, synchronicities, where you put thoughts out and then things show up in your world, doors open. That's a part of this evolving ascension process. And being very compelled to deal with core healing, whether I like it or not. Deep core wounds that need to be healed so that you can raise your energy and your frequency up to another level and not get triggered to go into negative lower levels. And the concept of raising my frequency, you've probably heard that, and lots of ways you can do it with food, air, thought, energy, meditation. Keeping your frequency at a higher level is all part of what I see as the ascension process. And understanding the concept of your higher self and living from your higher self, operating from your higher self, instead of just the mind or the ego, which we're conditioned to in this place. Also having more personal relationships with your guides, with the ascended masters and teachers, and having a consciousness awareness of how we can work with the higher planes. And also understanding multidimensional levels, like fifth dimensional level, and being on purpose with your divine mission, like really being here and understanding what you came here to do, and also connecting with your soul tribe, like we're doing here at this conference, which is so valuable, to find those people that you're most connected with in your soul family, who think and operate and have purpose similar to you, so that you can co-collaborate together. This is all part of this ascending process that's happening, and that we have great opportunity on the planet for. And so I'd like to find out a little bit more by asking this incredible panel, who comes from many walks of life, and a lot of them have had personal experience on many levels. So let's get into the questions. And I'd first like to ask, can you give your description of ascension? What you understand from your research? Because there's a lot of research that happens when you study the religions that describe this current process we're in now. And also your personal experience of ascension and how you see it. It's kind of like the blind man in the elephant, where there's all kinds of ways to look at it that we can relate to. And so I'll just go one by one down, and please take about 4 minutes or so and share what you'd like to share about your process of ascension, and I'll introduce you along the way. So Chareya Dharma, she is an amazing author, spiritual teacher, has been on the path for 30 years, has written many books, channels and works with people directly, and is very much on the ascension path personally and as a coach and as a teacher. And so Chareya, can you share with us about the ascension process and what you see?
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's see, can you hear me this way, or do I need to be closer, I think?
Closer.
Sure. All right. So yes, ascension. What are we doing? We're climbing. We're going upward. And what are we climbing? We're climbing the ladder of our own consciousness. And there's a part of us that never left the full realization of our God awareness, that ever-present, effervescent, ineffable suchness, that higher power, that high self, whatever you want to call that personal source of you, that God within you, has never left, is already ascended. It doesn't have anywhere to go. It's already all that is. It's already all-knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent, everywhere, and all-powerful as well. And down here on the earth plane, we've had a situation or maybe an experiment of descending into what we call duality, consciousness, this game where there seems to be good and evil, and we had to make the game really real in order to experience fully what that would be. So this duality game that we've been experiencing is something we're now ascending out of back into the wholeness and oneness of the truth of us. And so the books that have come through me speak about these things and what we call the recalibrations process. We're basically recalibrating back to the full knowledge and awareness of who we really are. How we create, how our body, mind, spirit complex is an emanation of the one, at the fingertips of God, a divine expression, and that you are that creator. You are at one with the one, and this is what we call atonement, at-one-ment. We're coming back into oneness. And what is it in the scripture? It says, if you love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself, you won't want to hurt anyone. And so if you love the Lord God, whatever you call that, source consciousness, higher consciousness, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, it's like whatever, all flavors, doesn't matter what you call it, just call it. We have to call upon that source, as Deborah was saying. And in that way, we reconnect with the truth of us. And then from there, we will know that when we look out at each other and look into each other's eyes, that we are looking at that one same divine being, that God in another form, in another expression. And then from there, we'll know that we don't want to hurt anything because it's all us. There isn't anything that we look upon or see that doesn't come from this one fabric of existence. And yes, we chose to play a dark game. We chose to come into duality, experience the negative emotions of fear and greed, and all of the trauma and pain and suffering has been a very real experience. But as we calibrate through the learning of this experience, we will move beyond having those wounds and traumas and hurts running our show or causing more negative experience. It'll become a database of learning that will help us go on to whatever the next adventure is. As Deborah said, we are in the process of the grand awakening. And so we're rubbing the sleep out of our eyes, not really to go anywhere or do anything, but to shed all that which is not us and all that which is not truth. So for me, keep it simple. Tune in with your very own heart, really deeply, deeply within the cauldron of the heart. This is where we can connect with the Spirit and find a way to be at one with that kindness and that love that will keep you accelerating and deepening the remembrance of who you really are.
Thank you, Tereya. Beautiful. And next, Billy Carson, who's an amazing being on the planet, doing amazing work. He runs Forbidden Knowledge, which releases incredible information about what's going on in the planet. He's also written a book on the Emerald Tablets. He's a host on Deep Space and is out there in the world in many ways. Appreciate your work very much. And can you give me your perspective from your viewpoint of that high point of all that you know?
Sure, absolutely. Well, because I take the scientific approach to a lot of information, especially going into esoteric information, wisdom, and spirituality, a lot of people sometimes tend to think that I don't believe that there's spirituality or even a creator, but they haven't really studied my work good enough to understand. What I'm trying to say is the quantum mechanics and quantum physics literally explains spirituality. It's like the underlying basis of it. Both the two actually go together. It's a unified physics, so to speak. And I really do believe that this the cycle of the yugas is a huge part of the cycle of the rise and fall of civilizations and the rise and fall of ascension for hominids of all types throughout the entire universe. Thoth talks about the fact that he has visited many worlds and watched civilizations rise and fall, which takes eons to do, to watch an actual civilization rise and fall, not on one planet, but on many planets. So this is something that happens no matter where you go in the universe. It's part of a grand cycle of rise and fall. And right now, I believe we're probably in the Tetra Yuga, Some people may want to say that maybe we're not. They may say that we're in the Bronze Age or whatever. I really believe that we're in the Silver Age, which is the Tetra Yuga, heading back into the Golden Age again. Which we're on that process, that upswing right now, where we're raising consciousness on this planet, not only on this planet, on many planets simultaneously, and heading back into that Golden Age. And I believe that truly now, based on my research, we've been at these high levels of spirituality and civilization and consciousness at least 4 times before in the past. And this is our 5th age. This is our 5th time heading back up into that Golden Age again. One of the biggest things that has been my mission is to discover how can we break this cycle. So far to date, I've read over 1,000 books, scriptures, cylinder scrolls, stone tablets, you name it, and I haven't seen anywhere written that it says we have to keep going back into this cycle. It doesn't say that you have to fall. Nowhere does it say you have to fall. When do we get to a point in consciousness that we can actually ascend and stay there? So because it isn't written that we have to fall, then how can we break this cycle? And I truly do believe that this is something that is definitely possible. Because in this universe, anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. So if we can obtain a level of consciousness and understanding, which is why I dig so deep into the ancient past, because I want to know what happened back then, because the past is prologue. We can only move forward into the future if we truly understand the truth about our ancient past and ancient history. And we had a very, very extremely colorful and amazing ancient past, to the point where now what I think that the majority of what we're living in is actually false, and what you might see in some of these movies is probably more real. I think it's really, really amazing what we've been suppressed from knowing and seeing. So in my mind, consciousness or ascension is literally the capability of ascending spiritually, and both in a way technologically, not to the point where you have technology that destroys yourself, humans, and the planet and the world like AI, but understanding the fundamental basis of the underlying structure of the grid, this matrix grid that we're on, how it functions, how it works, how it connects us all, the fact that we literally are all one. Just like she said a minute ago, we are literally one. So when I'm sitting up here talking to you guys, I'm talking to myself. And when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to yourself. We're all one. We're all part of that one seed that expanded out 13.5 billion years ago, that probably entered into this universe from a white hole. So, I really do believe that black holes lead into white holes and create other universes. Energy just transforms and transmits into other universes as these membranes bump into each other, just in my personal opinion. But I really do believe that we are all out here on a data collection mission. And what I mean by that, as above, so below, in the Hermetic principles, you see that the universe itself, in my opinion, is collecting information by dividing itself into multi-Googles of entities to experience itself subjectively from every single plane of existence. Everything from a blade of grass to a human being, to an ant, even to the atoms inside this microphone. It wants to experience that as well. Everything, from every aspect of the third dimension, to collect information. And if you look at the as above, so below with this, look at the human brain. The human brain is encased in complete darkness. It can't see, smell, hear, touch, or feel anything on the outside. And what it says is, look, I have a couple of friends. I want to send my friends out to collect data so I can figure out what's going on. So it says, hey, sight, hearing, seeing, touch, smell, everything, all my 5 senses. You friends, go out there and collect some information for me and tell me so I can figure out what's going on. They go out, they themselves have no clue what they're collecting. They're just collecting digital bits of information and bringing it back to the brain, which is encased in complete darkness. And then the brain collects that information and literally puts it all together and figures it out, and then broadcasts a hologram as to what it thinks is going on the outside, and you navigate through this electromagnetic field based off of a holographic projection. And so, we're really navigating through this electromagnetic soup, and the only thing that truly exists is consciousness. So for me, getting to the point where I can ascend consciously and get to the next level, it starts off with understanding that I'm part of the source energy, I'm part of that whole. And separation is actually an illusion. There is no separation. There is no distance. There is no locality. We're all literally in the same spot at the same time. The fact that we've consciously interacted with cymatic frequencies and slowed down electromagnetic waves, which creates the illusion of matter, the illusion of separation, the illusion of distance. It's just part of this experience that the universe itself is trying to collect in data. To what end? I'm not truly sure to what end, but it's collecting this information for a purpose. So we are part of that divine energy, that divine spark. And, my main mission on this planet is to help usher mankind back into the golden age by providing enough pieces of the puzzle, along with other people that are truth-seeking, like myself up here and everybody else on this panel, and you guys as well, so that we can put together the puzzle and realize, the one main thing that we're all missing. Not all of us, but the majority of us on this planet, unconditional love. That's the true mystery of the whole purpose here, is to recognize, to collect the data, to recognize and wake up to unconditional love and realize that until we exercise that unconditional love for not only ourselves, but one another, we cannot ascend to the next level consciously. We can't ascend to the next level physically either. That's the big mystery, and I truly do believe until we figure that out, we'll continue to recycle back into this dimension energetically until it happens. So that's what I took from the whole conscious ascension prospect of rising up and ascending and five-dimensional thinking and thought. I truly do believe that we're on our way, and I do believe, like as Deborah said, the fact that we're seeing a lot of things starting to be exposed is not showing that it's the end times. It's showing that it's the beginning of times. It's showing that things are not getting worse; they're only getting more obvious. Okay, that's where we're at right now. So that's my take on it.
Beautiful. Yes. And yes, the unconditional love is a big part of this whole process, so definitely. And Lori Spagna is an amazing best-selling author, speaker, visionary. She's been on the path. She is a true ascension coach. She works with DNA activation. She did a DNA activation at my temple, and it was amazing, and I adore her. And go for it, Lori.
Deborah? Well, what I want to share about this is 15 years ago, I had what's called an induction. I call it an induction first contact experience, where I was teletransported onto a ship with my home family, my star family. And from that moment, life forever changed. It wasn't something I was consciously understanding of how life would change. But what I know now is that what was awakened and activated within me at that point in time and space was what I was meant to bring forward for humanity during this ascension period. So to me, what it's really all about is shifting out of this perspective of left operating brain duality, where we're in separation, to God, source, divinity, embodiment. So there's no leveling up. What there is awakening and activating what has been dormant within us for all of this time. What is dormant within us and also exists all around us, around us, in everything and everyone. So what this means is we're basically going from an ascension period of time where we've been operating in a 3D holographic matrix to a 5D reality experience. So that means everything about how we operate and navigate our reality completely shifts and transforms. So if we do it like a side-by-side experience, or comparison, what we're really talking about here is old paradigm, new paradigm. Old paradigm, left analytical brain. New paradigm, brain, heart, gut. Old paradigm, fear, frequency-based. Fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, separation, concern, frustration, disappointment, impossibility, in-the-box thinking and being. 5D paradigm, opportunity, love-based, peace-based, joy-based, unity, excitement, optimism, inspiration, glad expectation, enthusiasm, possibility, potential. 3D is separation. Everything is outside of me. 3D, victimhood. 5D, creation. Everything is within me. All experiences are the effect of me and my consciousness. Every other being is in resonance with me. 3D, density. 5D, light. 3D, carbon-based body. 5D, light. frequency-based body. 3D is physicality, 5D is quantum, beyond physicality. So everything is a complete transformation. And what we're really doing is saying, what from this old paradigm resonates now that can uplift? If 3D is I, me, mine, 5D is us, we, ours. So we're looking at these paradigms right now in a side-by-side comparison, and all of us collectively are saying what works and what doesn't. What's serving the greater good? There's only one rule for the new paradigm. There's only one. And that rule is, what serves the greater good of all, ideally with harm to none? How does it serve us? And if it does, let it stay. What are we going to do with it? And if it doesn't, if it's not in service to the greater good, it's collapsing. And as we witness this and transform it within us, we are actually shifting the outer reality. So we're conditioned and trained to look at our outer reality and think that that's what's real, and believe that all of that is, that we're like at the effect of it. But in this new reality, we're realizing we are the cause of it. So a great example, I just want to say, and I'll talk about this more later, is just the old paradigm, 2 strands of DNA. 2 strands. The new paradigm, 12 at least, 12, 144, 244. What's in these strands? The old paradigm, these 2 strands are just our ancestors, the unconsciousness, the programs, the implants, the patterns of what was not fully received, what we didn't understand, what we didn't integrate, how we didn't claim gifts of consciousness, stored up as records in the DNA, and unfortunately, often indicators of dis-ease. The new paradigm is, let me clear all that out. Let me give the gift back to the ancestors, because now I'm conscious. Now I'm going to claim those gifts. I'm going to unwrap them like Christmas presents that I didn't even know what was in there. I'm going to claim these gifts. I'm going to awaken them. And now I'm going to go into those other 10 strands and start claiming my superpowers. And I want to know, what are your superpowers? Because I know me, I got some awesome superpowers. It's all in that DNA. It's waiting for us. Because within those other strands, everyone's a healer. Everyone has the original divine blueprint in them for perfect health without any form of disease and the elimination of aging. Not to mention that we all have the solutions for every problem that the world is facing. But we have to start activating this in us, awakening it and claiming our superpowers, and stop being at the effect of some false illusion that we've been buying into, not to mention giving our power to false authorities that we put there in the first place just to keep us in this matrix. If we want to know what the purpose is, here it is. The purpose is the expansion of consciousness and the liberation of our own selves from a dormant state of existing into an awakened, embodied state of godhood. It is time for us to claim our godhood, and that is what ascension is to me.
Wow. Thank you, Lori. Amazing. Very clear between the 3D and 5D and what's possible for us. Thank you. And now we're going to invite James and Desiree Hurtak to speak together. They're an amazing sacred partnership that have been on the path of giving us the incredible metaphysical teachings and spiritual teachings for many, many years. James wrote the Keys of Enoch many years ago, and they have the Academy for Future Sciences, and they work as a team. And I understand James had his own very personal ascension experience, very perceptible and very real. So can you both share your perspective on ascension?
So I had this ascension experience so overwhelming, it's difficult even 45 years later to put it into words. But for me, it was the realization that we are part of a divine process and that ascension was going to be a collective event. We were all individuals going through different stages of self-discovery, self-realization, and fusion with the divine spirit. But there would come a point where there would be a collective planetary awakening, that we were not alone in the universe, that we're essentially fifth-dimensional beings waking up to an awesome garment of light that is our true self, that we are essentially going to put on as we break through this culture of death into a culture of life and light. In short, ascension is there in the ancient scriptural text. If you look for it in the Old Testament, in the Psalms of King David, there are 15 Psalms that deal with ascension. There was a science of gradation. The righteous person was called into the temple, and as he or she ascended up the staircase to read from the ancient scriptures, this was called aliyah, or ascent. We see this clearly in the book of Acts, chapter 1, New Testament, where Jesus is taken in a body of glory and tells us that he will return in the same manner, namely a body of glory, not a physical incarnation. The word is topos, meaning that the manner will be the same, not the morphology of a physical body. So clearly, the deeper meaning of the Bible within the Bible, or the science within the Bible, shows us a knowledge of consciousness expansion, a gift of the divine spirit working through our physical incarnation, and ultimately the symphonic synergy of being awakened and called into higher service, which is multidimensional, eternal, and beloved.
And people have talked about this three-dimensional reality, which is really space. And if people are wondering, well, what happened to the fourth dimension? The fourth dimension is time, according to Einstein. So the idea that we are, we'll see, in the illusion of this space and this time. And ascension basically is going beyond that, is realizing the non-locality of all of us, as Billy and others said, how we're all interrelated. And in addition to that, it's also realizing that we are multi-dimensional beings. Fifth dimension is good, but we've worked also with Dr. Elizabeth Rauscher, who talks about the fact that our brain, even right now, functions also in the eighth dimension. And this has come through also a scientific project out of Switzerland, one of the top Technikon universities there, called the Blue Brain Project, which says that we're actually thinking in light energy geometries that are functioning on the seventh and eighth dimensional realities. So ascension really is our consciousness awareness of who we really are. And Dr. Hurtak, in addition to writing the Keys of Enoch, we together wrote a book called Overself Awakening. And it shows how, for the most part, we're like this in a physical reality, but our true self is much, much larger. And between us and our higher self is this consciousness presence. And so as we grow into the consciousness presence of who we are, we begin to develop more and more of our light body. And as Dr. Hurtak mentioned about the process of Jesus, we've looked at the cloth of Turin. I think many of you have seen this. We may show it tomorrow at our talk. And the whole process seems to be that there was a burst of energy that took physical matter back into light. And scientists are already looking at taking light and how they can make it into matter. But also the process of ascension will be moving matter as well back into light. And we're not just talking about the light that has a limitation of speed. We're talking about the divine light presence, that energy that Kimberly Meredith was showing us in terms of energy healing. It's that light energy which we are truly part of our essence. That's who we are. It's what's created every aspect of our being, the harmony in the universe. And once we begin to flow with that dynamic process and understand it, then we become part. This is Dr. Hurtak showing you this cloth of Turin that actually couldn't happen if someone was painting on the cloth. It had to come from this light burst, literally changing matter into light. And it probably went through the ultraviolet portion of the spectrum, but ultimately it was really a spiritual awakening. And we believe that's one of the greatest examples of what Jesus was doing here, not only to teach unconditional love,
but to teach the essence of the light body. And this work I'm showing you right now was done at Jet Propulsion Lab here in Los Angeles by one of my colleagues, Dr. Don Lin, many years ago, showing something that was most magnificent.
So if we can just take a minute, I think, because we can all talk about this and we'll continue to talk about it in the next 45 minutes, but let's just take a moment and close our eyes and feel that energy of who we are the one even that we identify as the I. And as we heard earlier this evening, let us change that to the we and feel that interconnectedness with everyone in this room. And then take that energy and lift yourself up beyond even the ceiling of this room into the cosmos and feel yourself first like the light of the stars, the trillions of stars that exist around us. And then finally, seeing ourselves in radiant bodies of light energy. And feel what that means. Feel the wisdom. Feel the understanding. And feel the love. And look down back at planet Earth and see each one of us, even yourself, sitting here, and realize that we really are in an illusion of space and time.
And let this divine spark grow even more intense. Let this greater love reach around the world into every heartbeat of every child. And let us realize that we are part of this great avant-garde of light being poured forth. The gifts of the divine or Holy Spirit preparing us for the age of ascension.
And in our book, Over Self-Awakening, the very first phase of 72 phases of ascension is to know that this is real, that it can take place, and it is taking place right now. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that experience as well. And Rob Potter, he's an amazing being on the planet. He's been at this researching all things metaphysical, spiritual, UFO for 40 years and has had UFO contact since 1975. He worked with the late Dr. Fred Bell, and he's an amazing wealth of information, and I'd love to hear what he's going to say about Ascension.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you all tonight. Lately, my contacts have been involving Venusians, and so I'm going to be sharing in my talk on Sunday the Venusian secret science of ascension. And essentially, this is the message of the Anointed One, teaching us the laws of the universe. There's many wonderful things to realize. Number one, we're already all immortal. We come here to the earth and take up these perishable togas, and one day we'll lay them down and we will be born again. In the teachings of the Venusians, and I've been corresponding directly with Commander Valiant Thor and the Queen of Venus, along with recently the Sharunana, the security contingent for the Venusians on Earth, and I've been receiving voice recorded messages from them and also some written messages, and I'll be sharing them. And this is part of the new dispensation of revelation to take place now. What is taking place now is the externalization of the hierarchy and an understanding of the native interior government, of the positive government, which we know as a Great White Brother Sisterhood. This is the interior Agarthan network of the 12 patriarchs of Atlantis and Lemuria who exist within the earth and are now making efforts coming forth, not only with the teachings of Radu Siddhamar through Peter Moon and the Rusigi complex, which is an ancient technology that the Queen of Venus has told me was created by a combination of Anunnaki and humans. But also through the guides of the sky or the masters. Everywhere there's an interior Agarthan base, there's also a Confederation base nearby. Now, my understanding from my communications is that the Venusians is the highest manifestation of love in the solar system on the physical plane. And as such, they are the, let's call them the gatekeepers to our solar system. The Pleiadians, everyone who's coming here from the extraterrestrial civilizations must clear through the protocols with the masters of the solar hierarchy on Saturn and also the protocols for the Venusians. And I've learned recently that there are several different types of ascension, and the ascension has been ongoing. It's not just Jesus. Many people are ascending all the time. And I'm going to share with you, I'll be showing images of, through a friend of mine, Dr. Raymond Andrew Keller, who got to live on Venus for 2.5 months and actually witnessed the previous Queen's ascension from Venus. That was in 2012. He was taken to Venus on a starship Isis with the ascended master, a female we know as Annalise Scarron, who is also known as Lady Ankara in a previous incarnation, who spoke to Raymond in his first incarnation on Earth as the scribe Virgilis Publius Maro, the poet Virgil. And she eventually revealed to him that she was from Venus. So he was taken up there to witness this ascension on December 20th. And they landed on the Tibetan Plateau with about 5,000 other Venusians, and they went in the mothership in Valiant Thor's Victor 1 ship. They went up to Venus, to the temple city of Azure and the Zither Dome. And there, many of the inhabitants of Venus in the large stadium witnessed the ascension of Lady Mazu, the Chinese saint who had been the previous queen of Venus. Now, Venus is a matriarchal society, and they're very close to the bees. The bees are actually the original inhabitants of Venus. The planet is called Abahar, planet of the bees. And my friend Omnek has talked to me about many other things as well. She was a woman who came from Venus, but I want to share with you the 4 different types of ascension. And one of these is called translation. And translation is not an ascension to complete immortality, to the grand central sun, but ascension to the next planet in our life wave. There is a system of incarnations from you start on the outer planets and you create an etheric body on Saturn. Your first incarnations in the physical body would be Mars. Then you'd come to Earth, where you have this physical experience, and then it's called the path of return. And you begin the return to evolve to the solar body of light, developing a light body. And this would be onto Venus, and then onto Vulcan, and eventually the graduation is in the sun. There's actually beings in higher dimensions on the sun. But the form of translation is where the body becomes young again. And I have several images and stories that I'll be sharing about George Adamski, George Van Tassel, Annalise Scarron, and a woman named Annabelle Krebs, who was a secretary for Truman Bethram, and a woman from India. The woman from India was born in 1885, and she worked for the East India Company, and she was bringing them down from Badranath and the higher above Hardwar and Lakshman Jula, and there was a beggar on the road, and they said, "Leave him alone." She says, "He's ill, I'm taking him home." "You're not getting paid." She said, "Go ahead." She nursed him down the hill. He said, "You have great compassion. I'm not a beggar. I'm not ill. I'm taking you to Venus." This same master worked with Annabelle Krebs in her 20s, an American who had gone there on a mission to help the people of India transcend the caste system. And she got old, and she told her friends she wouldn't die. And true to her prediction, her body, before she passed away, I think it was in the 1980s or 1990, something, the master from India came, he took her DNA, downloaded her memories, and she woke up on the backside of the Venusian moon base called Clarion, with rainbow light coming out of his hands, his third eye, and her heart, and she was translated into a new body. Translation does not mean immortality. Eventually, the translated beings will die. But long life is a possibility utilizing the real technology garnered from the ancient civilization from Aldebaran in the epoch thousands of years ago known as the Syrian Shift. 10 minutes? Wow. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I'm going to show you pictures of them in my lecture, and if you want to come by my booth, I'll be sharing some of that information. Sorry, I didn't realize the time had gone so long.
Thank you, Rob. And wonderful to get that galactic perspective, which takes it to a whole nother level. Really incredible. So I want to go another level deeper into the personal process of ascension, because I think that's what all of us would like to know. What are we going to experience? What can we experience? And how can we facilitate this more? And so some of the topics, you can choose whatever you feel inspired and that you feel you have the most authority on. But share the importance of raising your energetic frequency and what that's about. DNA activation, the evolution of the light body, acting and operating through the Merkaba. Also sharing about the process of deep core wound healing, because that seems to be something a lot of us are compelled to do to really get to those negative core wounds that keep us down in a lower frequency, and what that's about and how that works, and how if you're not dealing with it, it comes up right in your life to make you deal with it, how that process is. Also, if you know more about the fifth dimension and where we're actually going and what does it mean to have this new human that's being created now and operating in the higher dimensions, not just the fifth, and where higher love consciousness comes in. Or also, what do you think are the most important processes that we should be doing as a spiritual process, where it's meditation, or best techniques for deep clearing and emotional core wound healing, or keeping your vibration high with food, breath, good vibes, acceptance, and love. So what is your personal experience and recommendation of what we can experience and do? And Sharia, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you. So that's quite a mouthful. And I'll speak to a part of that. So we create our own reality, as many people were mentioning here today, through some very unusual holographic technology or something that we don't fully understand. We don't really need to understand it as much right now as we need to practice it. And as we are growing and developing, one of the things we need to master is getting our hands on the rein of the horse of our mind-body-spirit complex, of our thoughts and our feelings. If where we steer our thoughts and feelings ends up magnetizing experiences into our lives, then that ought to be what we put primary focus on in terms of how we operate on a day-to-day basis. So practicing the art of focus, the art of clarity, the art of knowing what you want and what you desire to experience, the art of feeling as if these desires are already real. You're doing this anyway. We're all creating from what is in our thought forms and in our feelings and in our vibration, to use a variety of words all pointing to the same thing. Whatever is in your processor, the good, the bad, and the otherwise, is going to be outpictured, because that cosmic energy, that divine energy, cannot help but flow through you as you out into an outpictured reality. So part of what we as humanity are being asked to do right now is become masters of that, become masters of our consciousness, our thoughts, our manifesting. And many of the stories you'll hear about beings in other planets is they're fully psychic. They're fully aware of what each other is thinking. And we've had the grace and mercy of kind of not feeling and knowing what everyone else is thinking, because not everybody's thinking very nice thoughts all the time. So in the meantime, though, you know, as we grow in awareness, as the civilization matures spiritually and in these abilities, we're going to be called upon to take our spiritual maturity and take the reins of our minds and our feelings and our thoughts so that we're harnessing these energies on purpose and so that we can be welcomed and ushered into the galactic conversation and the life of the universe as more mature beings who know the effects of our thinking and acting and feeling and imagining and creating. And thereby we'll step up our consciousness altogether. So that's just one tiny slice of the pie, but it's a pretty major slice, and without that slice, a lot of the other things don't quite fall into place because Ascension is really an inside job, and while we have a lot of help, we each get to do the work. People were talking about graduation, and you can't really graduate unless you learned a lesson. And it's not really so much about learning lessons, but it's about attaining mastery of ourselves. So I think I would vote for all of us being, in fact I do every day, my prayers and my visualizations are of a harmonic humanity filled with love, knowing their oneness with the divine, knowing how they create, and creating a beautiful harmonic world together. Thank you.
Thank you, Charia. And Billy.
Well, part of the process for me is affirmations on a daily basis, because affirmations actually reinstill a lot of the aspects of a higher being that I want to ascend to. And those affirmations, I say them not only for health, for wisdom, for understanding, but also to bless other people as well. I think it's important that we understand that the divine energy that creates this universe is also inside of our bodies. And that energy, you have the same power as the creator, but a lot of us have relinquished that power and don't believe that it's inside of us. So we instead of commanding things into existence as an ascended master, we beg for things to happen. And when you're in a position of begging, it's already been scientifically proven that you're in a position of weakness because you have a low frequency, low vibration. And how do they know this? Well, they put a cap, scientists in laboratories put caps on people's heads with sensors on them, connected to a computer, and they started showing them pictures on the screen. So they would show them a picture of a bed of roses, an ocean. Then they would show a picture of a burning building, somebody in distress, somebody getting actually murdered. So they can read the brain waves of a person and then transmit it to a computer and see exactly what the brain is seeing and how it's vibrating, based off of emotions. Well, what started happening was they based these images, or they spaced these images, 10 seconds apart. And so what started happening in every single case study, the brain of the person started transmitting to the computer up to 7 seconds in advance what the next image was going to be. Up to 7 seconds in advance. So you see, we're not even living in real time. We're not experiencing this third dimension in real time. There's actually a slight delay. Our brains do not create consciousness, it downloads it. Let me say that again. Our brains do not create consciousness, it downloads it. When you realize this, you're going to get to the next level. You have to understand that we are literally a light being inhabiting an avatar body. But our magnetite crystals in our brains is receiving the signal from source. And we actually download it into these avatar bodies. I mean, real time doesn't even exist, just even on a physical level. You're looking at me now, but it takes time for the photon to bounce off my body back to your retina and then get translated in the back of your brain. So when you finally do recognize where I am, I've already moved. So you're not even seeing me in real time. So real time doesn't truly exist in the third dimension. Only in higher dimensions can you experience real time. Fifth dimensional beings can experience the past, present, and future all at once. It's like being inside of a house and just inhabiting different rooms of the same exact house, doing different things at the same time. That would be the best way I can explain it to you. But that is the level of consciousness that you can ascend to. And when you hear people talking about this fifth dimensional thinking and fifth dimensional consciousness, you can actually then, what happens is when situations occur and arise, you can understand them from all different perspectives and different planes of view. And versus just a one, singularity, you can actually understand it from multiple, perceptions. And that's, to me, what five-dimensional thinking is all about. So we are, we're amazing beings. And a lot of the DNA that's in our bodies that they're calling junk DNA was just, in my personal opinion, disconnected by beings 200,000 years ago. a lot of that disconnected DNA, those reconnecting and helping us regain a lot more access to our pineal gland, to our spiritual antennas, and to our higher intuitions. And things that can help you with this would be, what you eat, what you put into your body. I'm not one of these hardcore, guys running around trying to beat you down if I catch you eating meat, all this kind of stuff. But I know through my manifestation process, one of the things I know for me that works is not eating tortured flesh. Why? Because one of the biggest things that I've talked about in my lectures, scientifically proven, is that DNA stores memories. This is not even a question anymore. 1 gram of DNA can store 433 petabytes of data. A human body can store 13.5 billion years of information. Ironically, that's exactly how old the universe is, okay, according to science. So the human body is a storage medium. DNA stores digital zeros and ones, scientifically proven. Microsoft just invented, 4 months ago, released the information they've invented the first DNA hard drive. So they have hard drives now that can store data. And this is going to allow us to go to the next level technologically, because one of the biggest things holding us back has been storage space, and that's gone now. That doesn't even exist anymore. So because of this, you have to understand that the human body is a storage medium. We have the data inside of us. We have the capability of doing amazing things and receiving information not only through a plug-in, but also through wireless technology. So our DNA transmits and receives wireless information on a consistent basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you hear somebody saying they're getting a download, you can't laugh at that person, because every single one of us in here is getting a download. It's just, do you recognize it or not? When you're operating from that higher level of consciousness, you actually begin to realize that when you're in sync with a frequency or a vibration of information that already exists in the universe, it comes into your body. When you say, oh, I just had a great idea. Not really. All ideas already existed. All inventions already existed. All information already exists. We only rediscover. We never actually truly, in my opinion, come up with something original. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but from what I've researched, it seems like everything already exists in the ether of space-time, and we literally, if we're on the right matching frequency, we download that information. And I think that a lot of times what happens is to consider yourself an adept initiate, which we all are, is when you get to the level where you can, your intuition is so high that you recognize these different things as they come to you, or you have the capability of tapping into them. When you hear things in the biblical text, as far as the book of life, you hear mystics talking about the Akashic records. It's the same exact thing. Thoth talking about it as well in the Emerald Tablets. This is now scientifically proven that everything in the universe is stored permanently. So energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. And all information, every single spin rate and location of every atom in your body is permanently stored energetically in the universe. Every thought generates an electromagnetic frequency, and that's permanently stored in the ether of space-time. So everything you have thought, thunk, and done is already stored in space-time. So in essence, there really is an Akashic record. There really is a book of life, so to speak. This information is out there. How can you tap into it? You have to me, what you put in your body is important. Because if you don't put the right thing in your body, veganism and everything else. But what I'm saying is, if you're in the process of trying to get to the next level physically, it's very important that you remember that during that process, you're putting in something in your body that's not going to transmit its memories or its low vibration and frequency into your body. That was the whole point of what I was trying to say, because that will interact with your frequency and your vibration, believe it or not, and it could cause you to have poor results on what you're trying to manifest or what you're trying to accomplish or even ascend to. That's just my personal opinion.
Thank you.
And that's what I do.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Lori.
Okay, I just want to dovetail one thing. The need to eat meat is a reptilian program coded in the DNA. I know that is pretty groundbreaking to me. So when you start identifying what's in the DNA, you can start clearing out all kinds of programs that we believed were absolutely true, which are not. So let's talk about really what we can really do from a visionary perspective to transform our reality on a personal and collective level. Number one, identify every single belief system, thought form, program, implant, holographic insert, which exists within you that is entangling you into a third-dimensional matrix. And that includes the belief that you need to eat meat in order to survive, dead animal. Number two, wait, before I even go there, does anyone like getting burned by the sun? Reptilian program in the DNA. Does anyone like to debate and argue? Democrat, Republican, white, black, women, men. Divide and conquer. It's a program in the DNA. It's not even real human. So when I say we have to identify every thought, and that is step one in a linear way, every thought, every program, every belief system, every perspective, every holographic insert, every ideology, everything we've ever believed or perceived to be real and true. I mean everything, because all of it is coded in the first two strands of DNA, and all of it is based on an old paradigm which is not even real, not even true. Even those things we've held as absolute truths are not true. Now, that's only number one. And yes, that is soul stuff. That is the work of the soul. I mean, if you were traumatized, if you were raped, if you were battered, abused, beaten, all those traumas, if you have any form of disease, no matter what it is, it runs in your lineage, it's all stuff that's coded in your DNA and in your unconscious. Soul retrieval, soul reclamation, healing, transfer, all of that can be cleared and resolved. There is nothing that is not healable. There is no disease, no virus, no AIDS that is not healable. The idea that there's a disease that's unhealable is bullshit from the third dimensional paradigm. Okay, so I know that's a strong statement, but understand, old paradigm, nothing's real anymore. And we have to disentangle ourselves from that entanglement that's what's real and true. So that's number one. And this is not something we do overnight. This is years and lifetimes. This is this lifetime, but it's a lifetime of work, right? Number two, as we identify these things, which I've just been saying, lift them, remove them, dissolve them, discreate them, clear them out from the records, clear them out of your reality, clear them out of your DNA and your matrix. Now, most people don't know how to do this yet, but I can guarantee you somewhere within you, you know it. And until you do know how to do it for yourself, get with someone who does. That's what really gifted healers do. Right? That's the job of healers and ascension guides who help us with this until we know how to do it for ourselves. We learn from those who have already done it. That's number two. And again, ongoing process. Number three, download, activate, and integrate. Download is true. Download, activate, and integrate new systems, programs, and consciousness into your embodiment, which it's already in you, so you're activating it as well from within you, from divine source, from the higher realms. And these are also codes in the future, in the dormant strands of DNA, and it's also within the field of consciousness, the higher dimensional realms of consciousness from 5D and beyond. Again, most of us don't all know how to do that yet. Within us, we do. It's within us. But until you know how to do it for yourself, get with people like me and whoever else knows how to do that until you learn to do it for yourself or to help you partner with people who know how to do it. That's number three. Number four, you must learn how to navigate a new fifth dimensional paradigm. Navigating a new fifth dimensional paradigm does not mean you spend all this time clearing out your wounds and your troubles and your challenges and then hating on somebody down the street. That is not navigating a 5D paradigm. Navigating your 5D paradigm means recognizing that you're going to be constantly, consciously choosing peace, love, joy, forgiveness, compassion, understanding, consciousness. What is it within me that created this? What is it within me that collaborated with this? How did this show up in my reality? Last week I had to figure out, well, I already knew. I broke my refrigerator by being a little pissed off that I had a large refrigerator that didn't use its space well enough. I mean, literally, within a week of me thinking this stuff a couple times, the refrigerator broke. Of course, I was gifted a new refrigerator that fits the space better, which thank goodness, right? I'm in a 5D, I can have a higher and better experience, right? But we have to start realizing this is what we're doing. That's navigating a new reality in a new way. We are not victims, we are conscious and sometimes semi-conscious creators, right? We can the higher realms call this miscreation. We might I didn't mean to like have a broken refrigerator, I miscreated, right? Okay, that's navigation. Number 5, consciously recreate or create your new reality for yourself as an individual and for the collective. Conscious creation does not mean hating presidents, for example, or judging reptilians. The reptilians, the draconians, the old patriarchy, look, they set up systems and structures for us to exist. They allowed us and created a reality, archons, for us to have an unconscious experience of duality and separation. They took their contracts and they ran with it. They've held the old paradigm in place because not enough people are willing to come out of denial and sleep, unconscious denial. Now, that system and structure afforded them the ability to feed off of our life force. That was the energetic exchange, period. Now, in the new paradigm, that's not what it is. But we must reclaim our sovereignty, our liberation, our willingness to come out of denial and to practice these 5 ongoing steps, which I've just explained, which of course is ongoing. I want to say something else. Very important. I loved what you said. The brain doesn't see things until 7 seconds or whatever it was afterwards. This is true. If you understand that what we're witnessing in the external world is what was, not what is. So from my consciousness, look at the world. I see what was, but I can see what is. Because I'm in a reality where my job as a light worker and braided starseed is to know where we end up. So therefore I can see the reverse engineering. We're in a space of reverse engineering, but over here, everything is fine in the higher realms. There's no problems on earth. Everyone's waking up. Everybody's coming into love and joy. Everybody's moving into heart-centered, compassionate love and understanding and consciousness. There's no problems. If we're looking at the reality from a 7-second delay, yeah, it's what was. But if you can step over here, pass through the tunnel and start to really see the reverse engineering, everything's fine here. Everything's going just great. Everything's exactly as planned and even better.
Thank you, Lori.
Can I say one other little teeny piece?
Teeny piece.
Really quick. What we have in every strand of DNA that starts getting activated within us, as we start to activate, elevates us to higher dimensions of consciousness. In other words, when you have a full 5 strands, double strand helix activated, you're already anchored into 5D. As you go through these 5 steps, you're already anchored in 5D. From there, as you start activating more and more of the dormant DNA, aka your superpowers and your ability to heal and transform planet Earth, not only for yourself, but for the collective in ways that serve the greater good of all. That's when you start being able to access higher dimensional realms beyond 5D, 6th dimension, 7th dimension. 12 strands of DNA is 12th dimensional consciousness and beyond. We can go beyond. Now, here's the thing. This is why this is so amazing. You see, when we get in a group, and I'm going to be doing this on Sunday for whoever shows up in this room at 2:00, and we get together and we start awakening DNA together, if I have enough representatives from at least 7 oversoul families, we can represent the whole of humanity. The laws of the universe from the 6th dimensional consciousness step in, and they start saying, you've got enough agreement here to represent the whole of humanity. We are not powerless here anymore. We are so empowered because we have all the higher realms integrating with us to tell us exactly what to do to transform our reality. So we get enough people in a room, we start activating our dormant potential and clearing out these old ridiculous programs of separation. What happens is these laws go, yes, 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 yes. Every law of the universe agrees. And every law of the universe says, do it for the collective. You got enough representatives here that are agreeing. You have no idea how powerful we are to make this change. And this is why I can say this with so much confidence, because when you start doing it, no one can take away your experience, as you know. We are gods in bodies. This is the time.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Lori. James and Desiree.
So to begin, I agree with Lori, because the fact is right now our stage of ascension is co-participation. It's not only that the other side is helping us with information, with wisdom, with knowledge, with insights, but also we're given that ability also to be able to be part of it. The planet will not survive without us at this point, but we have to align with the higher beings. And when we do that, and with our higher self, and that's in another sense, we are able to share that energy. We are able to transform not only ourselves, but everything around us. And that's why it's so important right now that more and more people wake up. We can feel, as you had said, Deborah, all the energies being shaken up everywhere around the globe, whether you look at England or the U.S. or in parts of the Middle East, wherever, the Far East. So it's part of us also that's going through that same shaking up of transformation, and it's important that we move forward in a spiritual way, tapping into not the lower consciousness, not the old levels, but the higher consciousness fields. And when we do, we really start to, I'll say the word, graduate into our higher consciousness and become part of a greater family. And that's the important thing, the family of light that we're a part of.
And this synergy involves the uniqueness of sacred geometry, sacred music, and sacred language. In my work with the late Alice Coltrane and many leading musicians throughout the world, we realized to reach 8 billion people, they don't have time to read these books. They don't have the privilege we have to have these conferences. They're out there in the highways and byways of life under the great stress and strain and the groaniness of an old paradigm collapsing. To reach these millions and billions of people, we need to reactivate the higher vibrations. And this has been our work with sacred language in the names of God.
And it's very important that we don't have fear, because there's no reason, I know in 2012, a lot of people were in fear of, and even the millennial time. But we actually did a conference in Chichen Itza with Alan Steinfeld called Beyond 2012 on the Saturday, Sunday after the Friday, because we knew we are not alone in the universe. There are so many levels of intelligence at this time, both extraterrestrial and what we call ultra-terrestrial, which could be called the angelic forces, the God forces, the lords of light, the brothers and sisters of light that are helping this planet and what's going on. And we will have a great power of transformation and ascension. But the more we tune in, the more we go with the flow of that divine consciousness that can come through us, literally into every cell of our body, but also into our consciousness mind, or we as biotransducers receive that. There's no reason for fear. We will know even in advance. I was talking to someone out there who had a traumatic experience, but she knew several weeks before that something was going to happen. She was already forewarned of this. And we have that knowledge of precognition, not necessarily only because of ourselves and our own abilities, but also because of higher powers that are here to help us every step of the way. I think that's very important. That's our spiritual family.
We had the privilege many years ago working with 3 advisors of the late John F. Kennedy, 3 of his advisors in prayer to prevent war in the Middle East. That's a story never told in the press. It's in our book, Mind Dynamics. The government leaders know everything that Chris has spoken about. In fact, everything everybody on this panel has spoken about. They've sat on the material, the real X-Files. They haven't told the people, in my opinion, the truth, that you have a divine spark. You have a connection with the divine self, the overself. And this is a great shift that's coming. So we must prepare ourselves with love, joy, and unconditional compassion for humanity. Because there's a war of thought forms. There's a war to control the mind space, the thought space that we have. And we have to guard our time and our privilege very carefully so that we use our energies together collectively to make this transition work with the other side.
And just know you are never alone. If you call for spiritual help, if you reach out into the higher consciousness realms, that it's abundant. That energy, that knowledge to help you is always present and always
The
abundant.
divine is here. The information we are sharing is just the first chapter of the book of life that's now being opened for each of us to use and be blessed with. That's the great news, the good news that doesn't die like the other news.
Beautiful, thank you. And Rob, what do you have for us to help close this out?
Well, I'd like to say for personal transformation in this apocalyptic times, which means that it's not the destruction. What it's like a little tiny shoot reaching up towards the light. We are ice-breaking and transforming our thoughts and our realities to understand certain aspects of our consciousness. We're not just physical beings, and we could use the terms that have been used here, like downloading stuff. We are the living Word of God. We are the divine presence manifest in an electrochemical community of cells that has a spiritual body of multidimensional nature. And the path back to the truth and to the original Christ consciousness and the divine and cosmic plan that is coming forward is through understanding the basic principles of the universe taught by all the avatars and all the great teachers. And in the Venusian secret science, it's understanding the 7 rays, the 7 divine spirits before the throne. And these are love, which would be the Father, life, which is the Divine Mother, and light, which is knowledge. The 4 subrays are beauty, power, joy, and peace. So light is knowledge. Knowledge is power. And yes, through subtle alien intervention and a very complex interdimensional war that's going on, and for the consciousness of what JJ calls in his monumental book, which transformed my life many, many years ago, this is a biochemical testing zone. And this is not like an experiment like some people would say it's a genetic war and different groups are fighting amongst each other. This is a nursery to allow the physical dimension plane beings ascend to the 7th dimension. And as Desiree said, the 4th dimension is time. Right now, the Great White Brotherhood and the Guides of the Sky, the Masters, the Hierarchy of Light, have placed a dodecahedron temple inside the earth, which is expanding and transforming us to the 4th dimension. The Venusians are 4th dimension on the physical plane. The Pleiadians are 4th dimensional. Eventually, we do, as JJ says, make a magnetic dip and we'll move closer to the central sun. This is probably far in our future. First, we have to overcome this. And one of the ways that we do this, that I believe personally, is through entering into the silence, meditating, wait in the middle, meditation. And so we're waiting in the middle of our breath form, the science of Kriya Yoga, watching the life force comes in and listening to God. Prayer is talking to God, and listening for the answer is meditation. So through prayer, through the sacred sound vibrations and mantralizations, we are going to activate our endocrine glands and chakras, releasing complex neurohormonal structures into our brain that will get us in touch with our feelings. So by garnering and increasing love through service to others, and this is very difficult to realize your feelings and not be triggered by these matrix programs that are put here, and realize they're very complex. The hierarchy of light is here. They could remove this force, but we must learn and grow through it. So I would say, pay attention to the small, still voice within. In my talk on Sunday morning, I'll be talking about understanding the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious mind, and going beyond the lower mental into the intuitional or direct gnosis plane, which the shamans talk about. And this is the type of knowing that comes from understanding the luminous self. So give thanks to the sacred divine energies that are transforming the planet. Remain calm. And don't worry about any natural cataclysms. The Venusians are more concerned with what we do to each other. So be kind to each other, love, and give thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And we're at time now, but this has been amazing. And all of these presenters are still coming up in the conference, so you have an opportunity to have personal time with them, except for Shreya. She is here at the booth. They all have books. They have videos. Lori and Shreya do personal coaching on Ascension, which I highly recommend. So please connect with them personally, because there's a lot more they have to share. And thank you so much. That was really amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.